about, you guessed it, yarn. And I have no idea what you mean when you say that I might have a problem with hoarding yarn. This is going to be a video where I share my top 10 favorite yarns and the yarns I prefer to use when I knit my sweaters. This is a video that has been very much requested by you, and I thought this is the perfect opportunity for me to also get my yarn stash in order, because at the moment it is a mess. And this is something I should have probably done before we moved, and not after. And some of these yarns are so old, and I'm going to be sharing all my dirty little secrets with you, and also give some tips and recommendations if you're just starting out or if you're looking for some new yarns to get inspired to do some projects with. Yeah, I'm really excited to literally dive right into it. Okay, I should probably clean up this mess first. Okay, I finally managed to organize my yarn. So this is a little bit of a random mix of yarns. These are all my Sandnes garns or yarns. These are all my drops yarns. That is Viggo. Here are some of the wool and the gang, and this, what do you call this? Let Lopi, and some drops underneath. And here are We Are Knitters and some more Sandnes yarns. And those are some knits in progress. It is so warm in here. Okay, let's get started. That took a lot of time and energy to get all my yarns sorted, but I feel very good that I did it. Normally when I do these knit videos, I wear one of my sweaters, but it is so hot in here that I'm not gonna do that right now. Okay. When it comes to yarn, of course, it's a matter of preference, and in this video I'm going to be sharing some of the things that I've noticed, some of the things that I prefer and like, and give you some recommendations. So maybe you're just beginning to knit, then I hope these are gonna be some valuable insights, or you've been knitting for a long time and maybe this will give you some inspiration and some ideas to maybe try some new fibers and some new yarns. So, first of all, I prefer natural fibers. So I use a lot of like alpaca wool, mohair, and those kind of things. Now, when you go to a shop where they sell yarn, you'll most likely also find a lot of acrylic yarns and maybe some blends and yarns with polyamide and these kind of things. And one good thing to keep in mind is always choose a yarn that is going to be suitable for the project that you are making, essentially. So for example, if you're knitting socks, it's good to choose a yarn that has some, for example, polyamide in it, because it will make it last longer. So there aren't holes in your socks after a while, because like wool and alpaca and these natural fibers, they do tend to be a little bit more delicate. So holes can appear more easily. Now in a sweater and maybe in a scarf and a hat, that's not really a problem, but something that you're going to be wearing on your feet, that can be a little bit of a problem. So that's just something to keep in mind. Just because there's some acrylic fibers in there, it doesn't mean necessarily that that's a bad thing. But again, I personally usually choose 100% natural fibers. Although I have to say, for example, like sheep's wool can be pretty itchy. So sometimes having a blend, and I'm gonna give some recommendation if you're like super sensitive to itchy yarns, you might want to choose a yarn that has some like acrylic, like some polyamide or something in it, because that usually means that it's going to be softer. But enough of that. We are going to dive into it. Oh yeah, one more thing that I should probably mention is that, of course, when you choose your yarn, you also want to make sure that you choose a corresponding needle size that is going to fit that yarn. And the bigger, so the chunkier the yarn is, the bigger the needles you will use, knitting needles or crochet hooks, and usually the quicker you will be able to make that knitted piece or that crocheted garment. So something to keep in mind. All right. Let's start with number 10 on the list. first yarn is called Melody, and it is by Drops. And Drops Garn Studio, I think, is their full name. I've been using their yarns for so long, and one really good thing about Drops is that their yarns are very affordable. So usually you'll find that Drops, in their assortment, all of the yarns are almost like half the price that maybe some other big brand. And I will have to say that in some of the qualities you might see that in the end result. So for example, this Drops Melody, I've knitted lots of pieces in it, and I really love that it has such a fuzzy texture. It's really quick to knit. It's not itchy. I would say I'm pretty sensitive to itchiness, and I don't think this is itchy at all. And they have some really lovely colors. This one is, let me see. So this is 71% alpaca, 25% wool, and 4% polyamide. And again, remember that polyamide is probably in there just to make it a little bit more long lasting and durable. Now, the thing with Drops, and for example with this Melody yarn, is that when you knit in this, you'll see, for example, if you compare it to Sunness yarns, for example, that are much more expensive, but you can see that they kind of produce a little bit more of an even surface, and it's also a little bit more shiny. So if you're knitting something that you really want to make sure that has like a really even pattern and the fabric becomes very smooth, you might want to choose a bit of a more expensive yarn. But again, if you're going for that fuzzy stuff, I can really recommend Melody. I've used them for lots of things, and you could even pair this with another yarn to make it even more chunky and lovely. So that is number 10. Moving on to number 9. In place number 9, we have The Wool by We Are Knitters. This is like a classic, such a staple yarn, and this is super chunky. It's 100% wool, and I bought this unicorn color and then this white color. I have 4 skeins of each because I intend to make this sweater by, let me see if I say her name right, Clara Eggers, and she just, I think, released the pattern for it, and I've been waiting for it, so these are waiting for that. Now with this wool, it is super chunky, so they recommend using 10mm needles, so that's a UK 0 and a US 15 needle. So it will go super fast when you knit this. It will be very chunky and quite heavy, so that's why it's at number 9. I usually prefer yarns that aren't this heavy and bulky, but again, when you're going for that kind of look, like that really super bulky chunky, We Are Knitters, they have so many fabulous yarns, and I actually even have a code if you want to get 10% off. I'll link that in the description below. So that's a code, like a coupon code that you can put when you buy any yarn from We Are Knitters that you can use. So I'll link that in the description below. But yeah, We Are Knitters, also I recommend following them on Instagram. They have tons of inspiration in their Instagram account. All right, moving on to number 8. Oh, I actually need to get something for this. Number 8, we have from Wool and the Gang, the Feeling Good yarn that I, believe it or not, I've knitted this cardigan, and all the pieces are finished. I just would have to sew them together, and for some reason, I've just not done it. So this is kind of work in progress. I think the reason I didn't do it is because it's quite small. This is the pattern for the Cinnamon Twist cardigan that I made the pattern, and I made a video for how to knit that. But in this yarn, the pattern became a little too small, and that's because I didn't count my gauge, so I didn't have the corresponding gauge, so stitches. But yeah, I just wanted to mention this yarn, and it's in place 8 because it is super soft. Like it is not itchy at all. Like maybe on a scale from 1 to 10, maybe like half or 1. Like it's super soft for being, let me see, this is 70% alpaca, 7% merino, nice, and 23% nylon. And again, I think that nylon is what makes it really soft. So again, by Wool and the Gang, they also have lots of like really chunky wools and lots of really cool colors, and on their Instagram account you can find lots of inspiration. So Wool and the Gang is definitely something that I also can recommend. And I have another set, I think I have like 5 or 6 balls of this brown sugar color, and they're just waiting for me to make something with them. So definitely going to knit something with that. All right, at number 7 we have one of my newfound loves, and let me show you. I knitted this recently. This is knitted with Knitting for Olive. It's a Danish yarn brand, and this is their silk mohair. Let me see if I can find. The yarn is called Soft Silk Mohair, and okay, they are pretty expensive, but I would say it is so worth if you want to invest in some good quality silk mohair yarn. It is super soft. They have the most gorgeous colors. I bought this when I was in Stockholm a month ago or so, and I first went completely bananas and I like took one ball of each color because I just felt like a little kid in a candy store when you can't choose and you just want everything. Then I got home to my sister's where I was staying and realized like, okay, maybe I should only choose one color and make like a bigger project, and then that's what I did. So the next day I went and returned all of them and got, this is the color called Cloud. And then I bought a few. I think I'm gonna make like a hat with this dark, it's kind of a grayish, bluish color. But Knitting for Olive, yeah, one of my newfound loves, and they just have the most gorgeous palette of colors. Ooh, at number 6, now we are coming to probably at the moment my favorite brand of yarns, which is called Sandnes Yarns or Sandnes Garn. It is a Norwegian brand of yarn, and I just feel like everything they make and all the patterns they have. So I also have a magazine with some patterns, so I bought the recent ones, and they are just so beautiful. And if you're familiar with the knitter Petite Knit, she even has her kind of own staple yarn, which is called Sunday, and then I think she has her own line, which is called Double Sunday. And well, now I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyways, Sandnes yarn, they are just so super high quality. And at number 6, I have the yarn Brushed Alpaca. So I've got lots of different colors of this yarn, and I've also knitted quite a few projects in it. For example, this was the most recent one, and I have some other ones as well, and they again have so beautiful color palettes. So let me just see. The color palette is so beautiful. It does remind me a little bit of the Melody from Drops, the yarn that I was at number 10, but this one I feel is a little bit more smooth. The colors are a little bit more delicate, and yeah, I just really enjoy knitting this with this yarn because you can make a project so quickly. And this one is 96% brushed alpaca and 4% nylon. And I think it's because of this brushed effect that is very fuzzy, and also this one is, I mean, it is really, I would say 0% itchy. Like, of course you can feel like it's not like smooth, like something like silky, like you can feel the texture, but it really isn't, I would say, itchy at all. I think you could wear this totally fine with just like a t-shirt and just have your bare arms. So that one is one I definitely recommend. All right, moving on to number 5, which is another one. If you are super sensitive to itchiness, you're gonna like this one. It is from Drops, and it is called Wish. And if you've seen the video where I shared how to knit a sweater, and I also have a free pattern for the Sunday brunch sweater, this one was knitted in Wish by Drops, and it is 0% itchy. It consists of 50% alpaca, 33% cotton, and 17% wool. And it's probably the cotton which makes it completely itch free. And at the moment I'm knitting a chunky sweater, like a top-down raglan sweater in the same yarn because I just love it so much. And they recommend 9mm needles. I'm actually using 8mm needles because I knit pretty loosely, and they have some really nice color. This one is just like the off-white color, and the Sunday brunch sweater is in this kind of pearly, a little bit grayish color, which I just think is so elegant. And I've worn this sweater a lot already. So that one is a super affordable. You only probably need like 8 or 9 or maybe 9 or 10 skeins for a full sweater, which means like in euros, that's like less than like 40 euros or something, which when you compare to, for example, the brushed alpaca from Sandnes yarn, where you also probably need like 8 to 9 skeins, and that's almost like 80 to 90 euros for a sweater. Again, This one, maybe it will be peeling a little bit quicker than the like high quality or like the really expensive yarn. But again, I feel like with these kind of blown yarns or these very chunky yarns, I've never found that to be a problem. All right, in number 4, we have kind of a joint place because I feel like they are very, very similar. So we're back to Sannes garn, and some of my absolute favorites recently have been their silk mohair, and then they also have a tynn sin mohair, which just means that this is thinner than the silk mohair, and it also comes, this one is 50 grams and this is 25 grams. And this one is pretty much, I think it's around like 18 euros, and this one is probably around like 9 euros. But you don't need that many balls for a full sweater, and I've been knitting with these so much. I love their color palette and I love the finish of the fabric when you knit it. And I'm currently knitting this kind of lavender color in this brioche knit, which I really adore this shade of color. And then I have this other pom-pom sweater that I made also with this one. I think in the color Chit, not sure, but I definitely recommend checking Sannes garn out, and the tynn sin mohair and the silk mohair. So this one, as I said, this is a little bit thicker, so you can use a bigger needle, and I think they even recommend 5.5. And the way I've used it, I've usually had 2 strands of yarns or 2 balls when I knitted with it, so I could even go like with a needle size 6 or 7. And again, I knit pretty loosely, so do take that into consideration. And then with the thin silk mohair, for the one that I just showed you, I am using a size 4.5 for the brioche knit, again, because that's pretty loose, and I'm knitting that also with 2 strands. All right, moving on. We're now coming to number 3, or the 3 top ones. At number 3, we have the yarn called Kos by Sannes Garn, and this is again super non-itchy, gorgeous colors. I made the cinnamon twist cardigan with Kos, and then I paired that with 1 strand of brushed alpaca silk from Drops, and it is just again one of these gorgeous color palettes and so easy to knit. I really like how it flows when you knit on your needles, like it's so smooth and just goes so quickly. So I think it's really nice for the wrist also, because sometimes when you knit very chunky or with chunky yarns, you can get a little bit tired in your wrists. So this one is just such a pleasure to knit with, and they have so many gorgeous colors. I think my next project is going to be in this kind of grayish color. Gonna knit maybe a cardigan with that one, so definitely recommend to check that out. All right, in second place we have Drops Air. This is one of my all-time favorites. I've knitted lots of sweaters with this because it is so soft, completely non-itchy, and again pretty affordable. And if you really like the look and feel of the Kos yarn, you could instead choose this Drops Air. They don't have as many like gorgeous colors, I would say, but there are definitely a few that are super nice. And you could even pair it with from Drops, they have one called brushed alpaca silk, this kind of little fuzzy ball of yarn. And this is actually the color I used to knit this sweater with. And then I also had 2 strands of this yarn, and it's super non-itchy. It does again produce like the fabric is maybe not as smooth as if you use, for example, the tynn silk mohair from Sannes yarn, but I actually feel like this is a little bit non-itchier on the skin. So if you're like super sensitive, maybe go for the brushed alpaca silk from Drops instead. But again, these 2 together make such a yummy combination, and I cannot recommend it enough. You can use, for example, the white ones they have in both colors, then these kind of fudgy ones or kind of beige ones, these kind of soft pink ones they also have, and lots of other ones that you could pair together and just produce some really nice color palettes. Okay, the moment we have all been waiting for, or I have at least been waiting for a lot, because I really want to show you this. At number 1 is kind of a new new acquaintance for me, which is the color combination that I used for this sweater, or the yarn combination I should say, which is actually again from Sunday's yarn, yes, to use their Sunday yarn. So that's the one that I was talking about in the early part of this video, in the beginning of this video, which is always very heavily inspired by Petite Knit, and she often uses the Sunday yarn paired together with a silk mohair, so strand of silk mohair. So this silk mohair strand was actually by, I can't remember now, but I'll put it here, what yarn or what brand I used. But I just really love the texture of this. It is so smooth, it looks so nice and professional, like this could be something store-bought just because it is so even, and it was so nice to knit. So I really feel like, you know, with some yarns and some, when you knit something, like you really miss that feeling, like how it felt to knit it. And that's what I feel like with this project. And this is a bit heavier, of course, because there's quite a lot of yarn that I used in it. And that's actually something I maybe forgot to say in the beginning, because now when we've gone through my top 10, you may have noticed that I didn't really suggest so many kind of heavier wool yarns. And one of the reasons is that before, or like in earlier days when I knitted a lot, I would use, so this is this cascade wool, which has completely gorgeous color palettes, like they are super nice to knit with, but I often find that then the finished garment is pretty heavy. And this is maybe a personal preference, but then at some point I just felt like it's too kind of heavy and it's very, like it becomes very big, which for some projects I feel like that really works. But at the moment I'm more into kind of very airy and quite chunky and fuzzy knits and yarns. So, but that's maybe something that I should mention, because Cascade, they are super affordable, have really nice colors, and I think you can get them in like most countries. And another one from Drops is called Drops Nepal, which I've used a lot, and also they are like super non-itchy. So if you're looking for more kind of wool yarns, like the more traditional ones, maybe if you're making like an Icelandic knit or something like this, I would definitely recommend Cascade or then the Drops Nepal yarn. There's of course like the really super classic, that this Alafos sloppy and like all these things that you use for the Icelandic knits. But I personally feel that they are so itchy. They're like lamb's wool or Icelandic sheep, I'm not sure. But it's super itchy, like especially if you're gonna have it straight on the skin. Maybe if you're making an Icelandic knit that you intend to use over stuff, so like it becomes like really oversized and you're gonna have like lots of long sleeve t-shirts underneath and stuff, then you could have that. And I have one of these like really classics. It's from my grandmother. In her closet I found this, which is super itchy, the yarn, but I've used it a lot in the winter when, you know, if I don't want to have a coat, I can just put that one on. All right, I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments below which yarn are your favorites, or which one of these maybe you would like to try out. I can't wait to read your recommendations and your thoughts about yarn. And now I didn't go that much into like how you care for yarn, or like how to choose the correct yarn for the right project or for your project. So let me know also in the comments below if that is something you'd like to see. I'm also thinking about maybe making a video kind of showing how to style some of your handmade knits, or how I style my handmade knits. So let me know if that is something that would interest you. And oh yeah, now I am just going to probably look at my yarns and think about what next project I'm gonna make with them. Oh, also one thing that we didn't talk about is of course like hand-dyed yarns. I love hand-dyed yarns, and the reason I didn't maybe talk about them so much in this video is because I don't use them that often, but they are of course like a super nice little twist that you can put in your knits. Yeah, all right, but I think that is it. I'm going to wrap up this video. If you want to see more of my knits and come say hi, I am over at Kutovakika on Instagram. And also if you like this video, then please remember to give a thumbs up and subscribe. Okay, I hope you have happy times knitting and that this gave you some inspiration. And I will see you soon. Bye!